All right, welcome back, everybody, to an old show that's kind of new again that I'm repurposing and refurbishing for the new year. I put a poll out in the Rennavision IG channel chat, and this was the toy video that you guys selected that you wanted the most. So I decided to bring back the Vintage Toy Market Watch. So this is just going to be a look back on this past week's sales on some old toys, some classic toys, some retro toys, things that kind of stood out to me that I found kind of interesting. Again, these are just some sales over the last week that just kind of stood out. We're going to look at some loose toys, a couple of parts, slash weapons, loosey pieces, as well as a couple of carded or box sets. We're going to leave off the graded stuff that we did in the past because I don't know, graded toys, it's not as fun. It's just not as fun to talk about. And these aren't things that you're going to easily stumble across anyway. So, I figured why bother? So we're just going to focus in again on some loose stuff and a couple of boxed and carded stuff just for context and just kind of rehash and remember some of these old toys and also get a sense of what the market is doing for some of these classic old toys. So if you do happen to go out there digging and hit a yard sale or, Goodwill and you find some old toys and you're like, man, I remember this figure or this little piece. I wonder if it's worth something. Well, a lot of it is. Not everything is, but a lot of it is. So hopefully you find this helpful. Hopefully you find this enjoyable. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you want to see more of these. I'm also going to probably bring back the top 10 toys every now and again. It's not going to be a regular thing, but just more of something to mix into the rotation of the videos that I do. Just something new, something to be a little more fresh and a little more exciting. So I'm not just doing the same shows over and over and over and over and over again each and every week. So just kind of mix it up, not only for my sake, but for you, the viewer, that you can take a look at and enjoy different hobbies and different parts of different hobbies, etc. So once again, hopefully you're on board for this. And if you want to see what sales happened this past week that I personally found very interesting, just hang on for a few seconds after the new intro, and I will be right back. All right, so if you didn't notice, I did kind of repurpose my old rundown logo and revamp it for the Vintage Toy Market Watch because I'm probably not going to do the rundown in that method, much further. It didn't seem to take with you guys, where it was just kind of looking at entire toy lines and seeing everything produced in certain runs. So, yeah, we'll leave that on the side for now and get back into a more generalized Vintage Toy Market Watch where we can hit up a bunch of different products and different IPs and toy lines, etc., and just have some fun looking back at some classic old toys. Now, with that said, let's see what we've got on the docket this week. One of the first things that kind of jumped out at me this week when I was scanning through some of the old sales was this little guy. Lucy, a little loose blue Tron Guy. You remember these? I remember really being a big fan of this movie when I was little. I mean, it came out in, 1981, so I would have been like 4. Yeah, and I do remember the toys, and I do remember just not much of the details of the movie. It was just, the glowy black and white and not black and white, the glowy neon, black light type stuff. It just stood out to me. And these toys were cool. They were like clear. Granted, Crystar did a little bit better because they're a little more posable, but these in the time of, the OG Star Wars toys where it was just 5 points of articulation was enough for us. So I do remember this, and one of these little loose guys sold this past week for a solid $55. Now, it's not a crazy number. It's not a crazy amount, but you figure you see a little blue Tron guy just in a tub of toys that are like just a couple of bucks or $1 or whatever, you're at a flea market. Just remember, some of this stuff is worth a bit of money. So here we go. Here's our little Tron guy. Plus, it reminded me too. I went to Disney, not that long ago, and we did the Tron ride, which was really cool, by the way. But my son did not enjoy it at all. But I did. I enjoyed it, and this toy is kind of cool, and it brings back a lot of memories, at least for me. I don't know about you guys, if you guys were big Tron fans, or you gals were big Tron fans, but for me, this was a cool one when I was a kid. There's the purple guy too, and then there was a red guy, and they also came with. Might be hard to see. But in that second image there, you see the little disc. And that thing is going to be impossible to find these days because, that was part of the thing. They had the little disc was like their weapon of choice in the game. You'll see it a bit better. Again, this is just another image so you get an idea of what the loose figure looks like. Just a nice little white background and make it kind of pop out. And then we have this carded example. This is just an example. Again, the one that sold was $55 loose. Didn't have the disc. This is just to give you a sense of what it looked like when it came out on its card with the little disc with him. So yeah, just forget. Get you in those, hit that memory bank, see if you remember picking up these, or getting any of these toys when you were young and opening them up, because I definitely do. I also remember the stupid arcade game, which I was not a fan of. It was one of the rolly ball ones. I was never a fan of the rolly ball arcade game, control. I was more of a joystick button kind of guy, but I do remember that. Anyway, that was our first one. So there's our card example. So we got a Tron. We got a loose Tron figure. Kind of cool. Gonna stick with a couple of loose figures. Gonna probably play around with the numbers, but just to give you kind of a sense of what I'm planning on doing going forward is doing maybe about 4 loose figures, a couple of parts slash pieces, weapons, etc., and then another 4 boxed or carded figures. Just again for context, and just to kind of cover some fun stuff. So we do have another loose coming up, and our next little loose figure is a little loose guy from, mention it, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi to be exact. This is one of the Ewoks. This is not Wicket. This is not the chief dude. This is Warwick. $170 for this little guy. Granted, he is complete. He does have all of his accessories here. So that also comes into play too when you're talking about some of these higher end sales for some of these loose figures. If they got all their little pieces, the weapons, outfit, attire. So he's got all the things here. So for $170, he looks like he's in good shape. Still, it's impressive. You can find a little Ewok for $170. I wish I had all my figures. I got rid of all my old Star Wars figures when I was in college. So told my dad he can get rid of them and sell them for me, and took the couple $100 that he got and bought beer. Yeah, not the smartest choice I made. But what are you gonna do? We all still have our memories, right? So that's also partly why I like doing this, because then I can rehash and remember all the things that I used to have, like this little guy. And again, I wanted to lay it out here so you can see this way. You got the little, the little Ewok guy. He had his little headdress. There was a little side pouch too, as well as his little bow. So make sure the accessories are there if you want to get that top end price, if you could find them. So if you're digging in a bin and you find the dude, keep digging and look for the extra pieces too that might go with them, because it could pay off in the end. And if you're curious what it would look like when it was on the card, here you go. This was Warwick when he was on the carded figure, and this was back when he got the special collector's coins back in the day. So the power of the Force, man, I had tons of those figures. But what else do we got? It's not just loose figures that you might find out there. You might also find some loose vehicles out there. So one of the first loose vehicles that kind of jumped out in this week's past sales is this guy. This is a G.I. Joe Night Force. So Night Force was like a later run rehash of like toys and figures. The original toy for this was more of like a light gray, I believe, and like dark gray treads, and I think might have been pops of blue on it. I forget what it was called in its original form, but this is the Night Force Raider vehicle. So it's got all the stickers, etc. $200 for this loose little toy. Because like I said, the Night Force era is back when they did like Python Patrol and like all the ninja stuff. It was getting kind of near the end of the Joe run as far as toys go, and they started doing more specialized things. Well, this was more at the beginning of that. I mean, it was 1988 after all. So this was kind of the start. By the time you got to around 89 and 90s, when you're getting Python Patrol and more the neon colored things, Tiger Force, etc. But this was still a cool one. So repurposing an old vehicle with some new colors, etc. $200. And just to give you another sense of what it might look like here, you got the little front seat and then the back seat where you get an extra guy hopping in there. It also had a cover that covered up that area too. But you can see here with all the missiles and weapons, etc. It's kind of a fun little thing. And just to give you an example what the box used to look like, here you go. This was the Night Force box for the Night Raider. Weapons do not shoot, by the way. You had to pull the missile off and go and make it fly on your own. We had to use our imaginations when we were kids. But thought that was kind of cool. Oh, the labels were glow in the dark too. That's also kind of fun. Again, finding some of these toys in this type of condition, even where they have all their stickers, is going to be tough because, just time and weather and how they were stored. Those stickers peel off, fall off, rub off, etc. And then there's just some spots and dirty bits and sticky spots on some of these toys could be pretty beat up and in a mess if you find them, like, again, at a flea market or a yard sale, etc. But still might be worth your time if it's cheap enough. Because yeah, $200 for a nice clean one is great, but I'm sure you could do pretty well if you were to put up one that is even not complete. So that's kind of the point here. And again, it's just nostalgia, memories, right? Memories. Up next, I got another loose sale. Now, this one is easier to find loose because this never really came boxed. But for you pony fans out there, whether you be a brony or for the ladies who remember their My Little Ponies, here is one that if you still have, go find it. Loose. This is Rapunzel, My Little Pony. It was a mail away. You can see it had the long, long locks. You see the castle, because they had the little pictures on their hindquarters. But with a super long tail, look, $1,000. And this is not an outlier sale. If you look up this toy, this figure, this Rapunzel, they are $1,000 plus. There's a lot of 12. There's, I think, one sold for like $1,200, like maybe a month ago. There's, I think, one listed for like $1,600 right now. This is a very expensive pony. So be aware of it. Look at that little castle. Here, I'll give you a nice little shot here too. Look at that little castle. And there are accessories. You have brushes, etc., for these combs, for these toys, because that's how they came. That's what their point was. Little girls, they like to brush things. Not brushing a Barbie. This time you're brushing a pony. But this, like I said, there is no box for this one. This was a mail away. So it just kind of came in a plastic little baggie that they mailed to you. You might find like a sealed one out there, which of course get you even more because it's more collectible that way. But I don't know, however you find it, just keep an eye out for it, because I mean, $1,000 is $1,000. So I'm just saying, for My Little Pony. So pretty cool pony, and a pretty cool little thing that if you could find it, could be worth your time. Could be worth your time. All right, so those are loose figures that we have for that quick little segment. I got a couple of little pieces and parts just kind of share with you, because even these can be something that sell well. I mean, look here. We have loose parts. We've got, yes, this is a Star Wars blaster. In particular, this is Boba Fett's blaster. Granted, a lot of these things can be reproduced. They look very similar. They look very much alike over different iterations of the figure. So it is really tough to kind of nail down which piece goes to what. But if you do the research, it could be worth it. I mean, there's a lot of pictures and a lot of information online. It's not impossible, just difficult. You just have to have a starting sense of what you're looking at. So if you find a little blaster that looks kind of like this is potentially a Boba Fett one. So if you look here at this particular sale, $95 best offer, they accepted $80 just for this little blaster. You see the size of it with the guy's fingers. It's tiny. It's a tiny little thing. It's a tiny little weapon that went to the Star Wars figure. To give you more of a sense, here is a complete Boba Fett figure that had it. Or here's Boba Fett holding it in his hand. To give you a sense of that's what we're talking about. This little weapon, little blaster that came with him. $80 just for that. Just for that, because other people are trying to make complete versions of their Boba Fett's, and they may be missing that little piece. So if you just find that piece, you might be able to sell it to somebody who's trying to make a complete Boba. Granted, here's a boxed one, or carded one, which, obviously prices go. It's a whole different stratosphere, but I'm only talking about that little blaster alone. So this is just to give you a sense of what it came in, and again, a sense of the size. It's very, 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 very tiny. All right. One more little part just to kind of show you of things that these are things that you can find at the bottoms of the tub. You go to a flea market and they have like a tub of toys. Look at the bottom. Just dig to the bottom and see what's down in there, because even if you miss the treasures, like somebody might have dug in there and grabbed that Boba Fett, but they missed the blaster. You found the blaster. You still found $80. Or, damn, somebody found that original G.I. Joe out there, but they forgot this helmet and radio set. That's right. OG. 1964 to 67. I think this actually came out in 67. This air security helmet and field radio. Just the helmet and just the radio. Loose. $2,000 ask. They accepted $1,600 for this little helmet and this little field radio. I know this stuff could be impossible to find, but this is just kind of giving you a sense of this stuff is out there. You just got to know what you're looking at. So information is power in this hobby. So knowing what you're looking at is the best tool that you have in your arsenal. With that said, give you a sense of what this goes with. Here, this again. Here's an old school Joe. Different versions because different outfits, because that's the whole point. Almost like a Barbie, you can switch out their outfits, make different versions. But this was the kit that was the air security. So you had the helmet and you had the field radio, and there was also other bits that came with this set. But you saw only 2 of it. It's not even a complete set. Sold for $1,600. Because if you want to see what it looked like as you were to buy it back in the day, it would have looked more something like this. Like this was the kit that you would have gotten that would have been hanging on that little peg. It had the radio and a holster and the gun and etc. It looks like a little baton and a belt. A lot more in there, but only 2 parts of this set. $1,600. $1,600. Just saying. I find this kind of stuff interesting, so hopefully you guys do too. I had an old school Joe. It was a hand-me-down old school Joe. I did not have the air security thing. At least not that I remember. I mean, God knows I could have had it for all I know, but it's not something that I was like, man, I really love playing airport security. Yeah, it's the kind of thing you don't remember all that well. But with that, let's get into some boxed and carded stuff, just also for fun. I mean, chances of finding this stuff is not going to be very easy or plausible, but it doesn't hurt to look. Doesn't hurt to look and remember. So that's what I like to do. So that's what we're doing here. Original Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Map Room Adventure set. I did not have this set that I recall. I mean, I could have, and I just could have lost it because realistically, this looks like a lot. You know, you got the whole box and everything. But once we get into it, you'll see it's not much in there. 1982. So it was $1,200. They only took $445 for this. Granted, this was not sealed. They were, I think some of the stuff were still in the plastic bags, but it was an open box item, but it still was in the box. But $445 still ain't too bad. Ain't bad for something like this. Inside, as you can see here, you had the Indiana all bundled up in the robes, which I did have that. I remember having the weird robes because it had a little weird snap, little button snap that went around the waist. Eventually would fall off, and you have to see if you get your mom to sew it back on for you. Pain in the butt. But I don't remember the staff of Raw, so that's why I don't know if I had this set or if I just had the figure loose somehow. But there's the map room floor and the little, surveyor type deal. There's also some ropes and extra bits. Here's the other side of the box, just to give you a sense of it, because it looks like it's a bigger box, but it's just a flap. So here's little bits and scenes of things you can redo with the figure, like reenact the scenes from the movie, etc. It's a little fun. I had the one in the tomb, like the one with the the walls, and then there were snakes all over. I remember I had that one, but I don't believe I had this set. And again, I am a big indie fan of mine. Indie's around here somewhere. He was on my desk for a while. I don't know where I put him, but there you go. Boxed example for that Indiana Jones map room set. We also had an interesting sale this past week. Again, these are all sales from the last week, just to give you a sense of this. I'm not going back that far. These are all the last week. So, I'm not calling out the date. Here we go. Here's a carded Riddler. So, this was a Bend and Flex from Mego. These were like little rubbery dudes that they're kind of posable, but you really couldn't move them very much. They were like metal inside. Like there was like a little iron wiring inside the rubber that bent, and there were like little holes that gave you some pivot points that you could bend them at. But realistically, you couldn't really move them all that much. It was a little deceptive. Had a few of these, but one of these still on the card, mind you. Sold. Here we go on January 16th, so a few days ago, last week, for $1,375. Yeah, that's a good bit of money for something. Granted, it is carded still. Look at that card. That's a very nice card too. Very clean. Very, very clean. Looks unpunched as well. So, oh yeah, unpunched. So that also is a thing with collecting on card. Unpunched, definitely premium. So that means it was never put out onto a shelf, onto a peg, on the peg rack because it was unpunched. But also give you a sense, there's other figures in that run. Look, there's a Catwoman, there's Batman. I had a couple of these, but like I said, they weren't very, very, very posable. They just were, they were what they were, right? But with that said, here's another good picture of just the card. Kind of fun, kind of nice. Almost $1,400. Got 2 more for you. Again, I love G.I. Joes, so I had a G.I. Joe. The other thing I really like, Transformers. So I did find a Transformer sale, and that's these 2, Ravage and Rumble. Yeah, these are classics. These where you couldn't have Soundwave without these. Granted, you also needed the other dude, the little blue dude. I can't think of his name right now. Ravage, Rumble. The hell was the blue guy? Laserbeak and the blue guy, the blue cassette tape dude. I can't think of his name. I'm drawing a blank. Point being, you needed all 4 cassettes if you had Soundwave. You needed them. You just couldn't go on without them. So here you go. Carded sale. Look, they even had the KB toy stores discount. 99 cents. It used to be $2 for this. 99 cents. This was on sale. Somebody bought this. And then somebody sold this on January 14th for $1,400. Yeah, just a week ago. $1,400. Yeah, pretty cool. And yes, they redid some of these, so they redid some of the G1 stuff on similar type looking cards. So be careful of that kind of stuff. But OG, it's hard to miss. You know it when you have it in your hand. And just again, for memory's sake here, the figures, yeah, Ravage, so cool. The little metal, like little metal pieces for his legs. They don't make toys like this anymore. Even these dudes, like their feet were metal and the joint pivot points were metal, like at their elbows. Like it wasn't just all plastic. Like the current Transformers are all just plastic. Like a lot of the old school guys, there was metal mixed in there. These were solid, hefty toys. You're getting something for your money. But there you go, Ravage and Rumble. Get back on the card. This is a nice clean card. Looked like back in the day. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, and one last one. I mentioned it. We already had one, but let's have another. Let's talk about another Star Wars toy. Because, well, to be fair, Star Wars toys sell. That's why they sell. So I'll see them every week. I'll see Star Wars, and they stand out to me because I like Star Wars. So Star Wars droids is a little bit tougher find, let alone a boxed vehicle. So this is an A-Wing fighter, which I'm sure you guys remember from the prequel movies. He still carried these things through, these ideas through. This was also like Obi-Wan was flying one, Anakin was flying one. This was, the little fighter that they kind of had. It was very similar. Shouldn't say it was the same ship. Like those little Jedi ones weren't the same, but they're very similar to the A-Wings. But anyway, box toy here, sold January 14th, $1,750. Yep. Crazy sales. And it's just crazy amount of money to me for here we go. This, hey, it's cool. It's cool. This is what it looks like loose, but man, $2,000 almost. And just to show you the back of the box so you can see, inside, you get the little pilot in there, etc. And yeah, and like I said, the droids line, that's, was after the fact with the cartoon and all that stuff. Just C-3PO and R2 going on adventures and stuff. Yeah. But a lot of that stuff is tough. And a lot of that stuff is pricey, even those figures just from that line. So it's not surprising that the vehicles are also expensive. But what are you going to do? Anyway, that was my quick rundown. There's just 10 quick sales over the last week for the Vintage Toy Market Watch. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you found that fun. Hopefully you like taking this trip back down memory lane with me and looking at our nostalgia for our old toys and what we used to play with. I do appreciate you. I appreciate any feedback you guys might have. Make any suggestions in the comments down below. If you want to see more of these, I'll try to do these more often. Again, I can't commit to doing it weekly just because of too many other commitments, but I'll try to do this, mix this in every once in a while. And maybe I'll look back over a month's worth of sales, so I got more of a larger pool to pull from, and do maybe a monthly thing for the Vintage Toy Market Watch. And as I said, I do have another toy show planned. I just got to sit down, put the deck together, and film it, and that will be another top 10 toys, where I'll look at a whole toy line and give you the top 10 best-selling figures and play sets and vehicles inside of it, based on price. So we'll get back to doing some of those here and there too, because even though still do well, I still have a few from the old days that I did. So I'm gonna mix a few more in there. Our next one is a toy line. I'm not sure if you remember Inhumanoids. They had different size. There was like the big guys. Anyway, cool toy line if you don't remember it. And if you don't remember it, look it up, Inhumanoids. I will be covering that in another next week or so. Like I said, once I got time to sit down and put the thing together and film it. But I got it all planned out already. I ran all the numbers, did all the research already. I got the list, etc. So I just got to find the time to do it. But I love doing this stuff. Hopefully you're enjoying watching it still. And yeah, I'll see you all soon with some more content. All right, later.